All right. So I think your Grace, your challenge to the parishes and the responses in the chat box. I know you're pretty tech savvy. Um, Serve as a nice segue into our next session as it relates to parish council members, organization leaders, really just all of us, and how we continue to take these practical steps, especially as we emerge from this pandemic. And I'll let you start with whatever opening words are in your heart, and then we can open it for dialogue.
Uh, just that I wish that all the folks who came for the parish council conference had the opportunity to be with us the last hour, because it really was all about uh, understanding the parish community to be a place of healing, and the importance of the interaction and love and cooperation and work of the local parish community to be a place of hospitality. The word hospitality and the word hospital are of course, with the same root. And when we give people a safe place uh, to experience God, to interact with God, to love God and be loved by God, which the parish community is supposed to be, and we need to be very deliberate about making it a safe and holy place where people don't criticize each other and refrain from unholy chatter and those kinds of things, uh, and from power games and all that foolishness. Uh, it it is the source of our life. You know, the uh, parish leaders need to be keenly aware of what the church is. And the church, we say in our Nicene Creed that we believe in four things. We believe in the Father, the source of everything. Uh, we believe in the one and only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, who took on flesh to join us and give us access to the Trinity. And the Holy Spirit, who enlivens us and saves us and brings us through Christ to the Father and brings everything from the Father through Christ to us. And we believe in the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. And like Christ, this one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church is both human and divine. Uh, its source is God the Father himself, and it is guided by the Holy Spirit, even through human beings, to be in the body of Christ. And Christ established only one church. And that one church that he established needs to be understood to be his gift of salvation and his gift of access to the Trinity and his gift of life, because it's in the body of Christ. And holy means it's not ours, it belongs to God, and we belong to God. Schmemann used to laugh when people said the church is ours, it's not God's. And he would say, but you're God's. You belong to God. And so if you belong to God, then you can claim the buildings, because the buildings are the least important. What's most important is our relationship with God that gives us eternity. And the one holy church is Catholic, which means it's for everybody. It's not for an ethnic group. It's not for social activities. It's for everyone to be saved by God, and it's a church. It's people of the resurrection called out of the fallen world to be uh, to be the gathering around the Eucharist and around the bishop that has the authority to to understand and experience God's real forgiveness, His real life, His real love, and that's what the church is. So what the church is uh, an amazingly uh, uh, important gift. It is our very access to salvation. It's our Eucharist. It's our Thanksgiving. It's our oneness to God. It's our oneness to each other, and it connects us to everyone who ever said yes to God and everyone who will ever say yes to God. And the liturgy itself is the most magnificent expression of what the church is as a community already in heaven, already hearing God's voice, already worshiping at His footstool, already together outside of time with our uh, great great grandchildren who are yet to be thought of and who will be born hundreds of years from now. The church encompasses everything. So, uh, uh, so that's uh, my introduction.
That's a beautiful introduction of eternity. And I think one of the themes that we've heard, whether it be, I was able to hear Father Turbo and Father Martin, Father Joshua, and all of you here tonight, that this is ultimately the place of love and mercy, which is the thing that is eternal. And how we reflect that ultimately, I think, is what keeps the church alive, of course, in Christ, and the authenticity of that and the eternal quality of it. It seems like that's been the theme that is ultimately uniting, and how we do that as a parish community to keep reflecting the love and mercy of Christ amongst ourselves, and as we open our doors to others. Does anybody have any thoughts that they or comments for Sayedna? Well, I guess one of the things that, as we put this session together, and when we started the parish council session at our spring retreat last year, some of that emerged out of need for some of the difficulties that parish councils were facing. Does anybody want to offer some of the challenges that you're facing right now, and seek Sayedna's wisdom while we have him with us? Take advantage.
One of my friends asked me about the icon kind of over my head. That's an icon of Christ washing the disciples' feet, which is, of course, what Christ offered us as the example of leadership, that the way that we lead is by serving. The term deacon means servant, and we're all called to lead others to Christ through serving and loving. And difficult to see from here, but the expression of the faces of the other disciples in the icon, other than St. Peter, is marvel. That they marvel at Christ's example of love and humility, and what must have been for them and a amazing and confusing message, because it was so different from the way the world was to imagine that the leader would uh, serve his people. One of the oldest bishops um, in America, uh, Archbishop Nathaniel, always jumps up after a meal and gets a big coffee pot and fills all the coffee cups of all of his clergy and people, because it gives them a chance to connect with them, and it gives them an example that we all need uh, to be serving, and I always found that to be particularly beautiful. Saint Joseph often speaks of leadership and being servant as well.
If we have a question, should we ask it over the audio?
Yeah, go ahead. Right now, I think that's great. Bishop John would love dialogue, so please.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Grace. My name is Dimitri. I'm from the parish of St. James in Maryland.
Sure.
I'm on the parish council, so I guess parish council meeting. So, um, you in your opening, you kind of mentioned a couple of things. One, that we are in a church that is, in a sense, for all time, for all place. I'm not going to try to summarize. But and also, it is a church for open for everybody. That's how we should be serving it.
Yes.
And I guess my question is, I am not of any kind of Antiochian descent. I am Russian in my background, and never really, even had any problems. Just the Orthodox Church. But I guess my question is, with the recent events in the church, which seem to be beginning to draw some division and kind of ethnic lines among some of the other dioceses. Now, sometimes I feel conflicted trying to serve in an Antiochian church while still trying to stay Russian as my background, and kind of how to approach kind of making peace with that and figuring out how to maneuver that. And in one place, I'm kind of grateful that I'm here because I feel like I haven't had to even take a side at this point, which actually
Sure.
feels pretty good. But kind of going forward, um, knowing this, how to keep serving in a church, as it seems like, the ethnic thing is becoming more prevalent than it used to be some years ago, even.
Sure. That's a great question. The Antiochans are on the side of unity and peace, and we don't want anyone to divide from each other, and we refuse to divide from anyone. So that's been the position of the Antiochian church through this. I take care of the parishes in New England and the Western Rite parishes. Uh, so I serve about 50 clergy. Only 3 of them were born into the Orthodox Church, and 47 of them are uh, converts. The Antiochian Church in America was particularly positioned uh, in the early 1900s to be a unifier of churches, because we weren't tied to a particular language. For most of us, Arabic was a language that was imposed on us by the Ottomans. Uh, had taken away the Aramaic and Syriac from us when we were under Ottoman rule. And because we were for so many centuries under Ottoman domination, we didn't have a nationalism. And so our identity was Orthodox Christian. And that's what was important. And so our early churches uh, uh, worked well. The Church of Russia has oftentimes been a wonderful support of the Antiochans through history when under the domination of the Ottomans. And there's a fun kind of piece of history. The Church of Moscow gave the Church of Antioch two very large parishes in Moscow so that the candle money and the collections could support the education of priests in Greater Syria. And that helped us through a very difficult time. When communism came, those two churches were the only churches in the Soviet Union that were not subject to give the baptismal records to the Secretary of Religion. So approximately 30,000 people a year were baptized in those two churches, mostly after dark. And so Antioch was able to play a supportive role in the health of and survival of the Russian church too. And those two churches remain as part of the Patriarchate of Antioch, and we have a metropolitan in Russia that takes care of them. So history's an interesting thing, and so Dimitri, you're not the only person in our parish that comes from a Russian background, and things like where our grandparents come from should not divide the church. There are over 60,000 Christian denominations in the United States registered with separate tax numbers, not parishes, denominations. And we Orthodox claim to have remained united and stayed together throughout all of that time. So we're blessed by our love for each other and our unity, even if sometimes we fight like dysfunctional families. We share the same gospel, and thankfully, mostly we make up. Sidney Thomas, I was wondering if you wanted to speak here on this.
I just wanted to say that to serve in the Antiochian churches in this archdiocese, there will be more, in some of our parishes, there will be more people of a Russian and Slavic background than there are of a Middle Eastern background. When I served in St. Petersburg, Florida, the majority of my parish council, I don't know about parishioners, were of Slavic background. So, I mean, in this country, you have to be able to adjust to life in the church as it is in this country. I also want to make a comment that's not connected to this. People that serve on parish councils, I need to be reminded by the faithful that they have to learn and play well with their priest and their bishop too, but more importantly with their priest. Have to learn and play well with their bishop and their priest, especially their priest. Um, we still have some people who have this idea in their heads that their relationship with their priest is one of um, employer and employee, and even the IRS recognizes that the priest is not an employee. The IRS recognizes that clergy are self-employed. We're not self-employed. We're employed by God. See, and but self-employed is better than employer employee. They have a better idea of what the clergy should be than some of our parishioners and some of our parish council members. Uh, Not too long ago, I was in a meeting with church leadership, and the people that I was in the meeting with in the Zoom meeting had a really perverted idea of what our relationship should be. And that happens rarely. Really, most of the time when I meet with parish councils, they have a very, very good frame of mind. They love their priest very much. They see their priest as their father, and they take good care of him. I visited parish this weekend. That's a prime example of doing well, working well with one another. But we have to be cognizant of the fact that there are people that were not raised in the church, were not raised in such a way that they have that good relationship. And those of us that do, we have to love the people, we have to care for our parish council members, but we also have to find a way to convince them or to coax them to go from a relationship that's very secular to a relationship that's very, very pious and holy. And it's vice versa. It's, as bishops and priests, we have to learn sometimes to talk nicely and piously to our children, and not to be berating them, not to blow their stack. Just tonight, I blew my stack with someone, and they're just trying to do their job. We need to be cognizant of the fact that these are our children. These are not people that should ever be disrespected, that they are made in the image and likeness of God, and they are prospective saints that will go up on the iconostas, and will be held accountable for the way we treat one another. That had nothing to do with the Church of Moscow and Antioch, the politics of it, but it had plenty to do with the way that we deal with one another.
See, then my favorite line is, without us, the bishops and the clergy, the parishes are only social clubs. And without the parishes, we're unemployed. Uh, we might be still bishops and priests, but we need each other, and we need to work in symphony, and we need to work with love and support of each other. Uh, the bishops are elected, nominated by the people and elected by the church. We don't come from Cracker Jack boxes. We come from the parishes. We are baptized Christians, and we're part of the laity. We're part of the parish. We're not people that we belong to each other. We belong to the Metropolitan. We belong to Jesus Christ. And the church sends the presbyters to the community to live among the people, to lead them, to serve them, to love them. And in return, the communities should cooperate with the priests. One of the things that my son Gregory remembers is by begging him when he was a child to help me help him. Help me help you. You know, he would arch his feet so that his shoes wouldn't go on. And but we needed to go to church, and so his shoes needed to go on, and we couldn't take 20 minutes playing a game. And so I would say, help me help you, because I don't want you to cut your feet on the stones. I don't want you to go out in the snow with no shoes, and we're going to church, so help me help you. And and all of us in the church, we need to help each other help us, and cooperate together, keeping a vision of Christ, keeping our eye on what's true. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to argue. It's okay to discuss. Sometimes in those heated discussions, everything becomes clear, and we have epiphanies, and the lights go on, and things make sense. But nobody should insist on their own way. Nobody should be arrogant or foolish. Go back to St. Paul and see what he says about love, and live that. And if we could live like that as a church community, there would be no stopping us, and we could be a real light. Uh, the church belongs to Christ, and Christ hung on the cross for all people, and uh, nationalities and jurisdictions have nothing to do with it. We're a parish community, and it's about Jesus Christ. And if we can incorporate pierogi and uh, um, uh,
Spaghetti.
gyros and anything else, it makes for even better food fairs, and more fun. So let's not worry about ethnicities and language. Let's be tolerant of supporting each other and meeting each other's needs, and keep our eye on Jesus Christ.
You
The
never,
world has
you,
gives us.
I'm sorry, you never know the people that you're working with, uh, where God will take them. You never know, and whether you're going to be you're going to assist or you're going to be a hindrance. Two of the people that are on this screen were my parish priests, Bishop John being one, and Father George Alberts being another. Okay, and if you would have told Bishop John or Father George Alberts that I would have been a bishop, they would have told you you need serious counseling. Okay, but if anything good came about, they had a lot. Both of them had a lot to do with it, and that's what God expects us to do with our parish council, with our parishioners. Uh, you know, He expects us to uh, help, help, help them, so He can help us. Keep cooking spaghetti, Father George.
I'll be over. Thank you, uh, both both of you saying this. Thank you so much. And to that point, I think Father Michael Bishop's on with us, and he is consistently on our all of our events. So it's a joy, Father Michael Bishop, to have you on with us. And he makes the point here: I belong to the Moscow Patriarchate and frequently serve at Antiochian and OCA churches, and I love the diversity at Holy Cross and Linthicum. And in my own parish, any given Sunday, you can hear up to 10 languages spoken in the church hall, of course, all representing the body of Christ. So, Father Michael, thank you for that comment. Your Grace, Bishop John, and Your Grace, Bishop Thomas. One clergy asked the question, first made the point that he's noticed the numbers with virtual services, streaming services, falling off relatively quickly after the first couple of months. And here's the comment exactly. In a huge church, sometimes it's very hard to feel that people continue to be connected. Live stream watching numbers have dropped significantly a few months into the pandemic. Few people come to church because of restrictions and because of fear. How can we as priests and parish council members evaluate that people are connected, or what should be the goal?
I think we need to be deliberate and creative and flexible. The virtual meetings are helpful. Groups that put together cookies and drop them off, or taking care of folks who can't get out. Um, Newsletters become more important. Uh, uh, Whatever drive-bys, uh, drive-by visits where we can talk to people from the car. Uh, whatever, we need to be creative, and we need to be flexible. Even with the virtual services, people don't feel as connected. Many parishes do Zoom coffee hours, um, and we just need to keep up the best effort that we can. And when the numbers are low, we need to make a better effort to encourage each other to get to church. And when the numbers are high, we need to protect uh, those who are most vulnerable. Um, that's. But again, if you want to share what your parishes are doing to creatively keep everybody connected, that would be great. Some people are using computers that make phone calls with recorded messages. Others are sending out daily uh, emails to keep everybody connected. Uh, whatever, whatever you think works best for your parish. And we need more help, not less. And your clergy need more love and more support than ever. And most of the priests that I talk to are pretty tired because they're working twice as hard to keep up with everybody, and it's been a real challenge. For those of you who missed the last hour, it was all about using the challenges that we face individually and as communities to strengthen us as communities and to strengthen us as Christians. And uh, so to see even this ugly pandemic as opportunities is great. I don't know how many people told me they heard the liturgy differently because they weren't having to do things in the church, so they could hear the priest's prayers, and they could see things in the altar that they couldn't see from the middle of the church where they have to sit because their grandfather sat there, and those kinds of things. So this pandemic has offered us a few opportunities as well.
Um, Bishop John and Bishop Thomas, this is Allison Deeb, and I have a question about um, on a diocesan level for the Mid-Atlantic Diocese. There is a problem with connectivity and connectedness with people. And on the call this weekend with the teens, it was apparent with some of the teens that they are feeling, maybe slightly depressed and sad, or most importantly, they are feeling a lack of connectivity or connectedness. And so one of the things I was thinking about, and I'll get to my question in a second, is the possibilities, right? So this is all a horrible thing. The pandemic is awful, unimaginable for many of us. And the site of when it's ending is very unclear, or at least it keeps getting extended. And the conferences, which are the parish life conferences, which are a source of joy for a lot of people, especially the young kids, they look forward to it, are getting erased. They're getting canceled, and it creates a whole sense of loss and another sense of loss. And now we have the possibility that the conference might be canceled next year. And so there's this kind of feeling of doom. So in light of the technology, as the coordinator for the oratorical contest, it occurred to me that oratory is something that can be done on Zoom. It doesn't have to be canceled. In fact, it's a whole new way of communicating, and it would be teaching the young people, which many of them probably are better at it than I am, and they are already doing it. We could have an oratorical contest on Zoom or another platform, whatever His Grace is, if it's if it's the pleasure of this board or how that would get decided. It just seems to me like these festivals shouldn't get canceled, because that's a way that we engage and we bring in the young people. You could also do the visual arts contests, through the technology too, although it might be done, somewhat differently. But is the archdiocese and are the diocese exploring how we could use these platforms to maybe have pieces of the conference in the future?
I think Senator Thomas pointed. I don't know if he's pointing to me or not. Uh, I think that when you asked the question and Bishop Thomas looked very receptive, then yeah, he's thinking about the possibility. And uh, certainly, why not? Why not uh, uh, do as much as we can on the Zoom? We need to be we need to be creative. Um,
Well,
so
I
I
would
think
love to work with you on that, if, and with the other coordinators, um, because if the Sacred Music Institute can bring together over 100 or 200 people on a virtual platform, there's no reason why we can't bring together 17 or 20 orators with the judges are going, it's certainly going to be different. There's no question that it's going to be different from what we know, but I think it can be done. And maybe it just we have to be creative in how we organize it for the first one, as a pilot or as a trial or something like that.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Allison, we're excited to work with you in that regard. We're hoping to have word from the Archdiocese early in the new year. We were caught off guard a little bit last year and had to cancel the PLC rather late in the game and couldn't adjust. But this year we're a little better prepared and absolutely are hoping to go virtual if we can't be together. And we're grateful for your enthusiasm. And you'll absolutely, I promise now that you'll be a part of it. So thank you so much for that.
but my hat's off to you guys, because what you pulled off this weekend was pretty much a parish life conference. All of the meetings that you have at a parish life conference, all the retreats, all the workshops, you guys have done that. And I'm impressed.
Glory to God. Thank you, Syed. And with the help of Bishop Thomas and so many others, it has been wonderful. I think we've approached 300 people, and that's really a blessing. So God willing, it carries forward.
See, sometimes it pays to be compulsive and obsessive. That's what I am.
We just have to figure out how we can make money at it.
No,
There are
wait.
things that are more important than money, Allison.
Yes, amen.
Monetize it. Oh, I'm just kidding, Sam.
And don't kid. There's nothing wrong with making money. Maybe Father George can teach us to make spaghetti. You see?
There you go. Virtual spaghetti sale. So along the lines of money, somebody asked a very practical question here. Is there a reason that priests are not employed, quote, by the Archdiocese and assigned to respective parishes as opposed to being employed by the parishes themselves?
The parishes do not employ the priests. Okay, the priest works works in conjunction with the archdiocese under the direction of the metropolitan, and the archdiocese directs us as to how the priests are to be taken care of financially by the parishes. If, as a matter of fact, it were to work that the checks would come and the salaries would come directly from the archdiocese, it wouldn't allow us to take in consideration um, the size of the parish, what a priest has to do, and some of our priests take pleasure in doing other work. They voluntarily go to missions or go to small parishes, and they want to teach, they want to work on a college. The majority of the priests in the diocese I serve do not get a full-time salary from the parish. Some of them have jobs, some of them are retired, and if we were to reverse it and have the archdiocese take care of the priests, it would take some flexibility from what some of our priests like to do, and it also would be a hardship on many of our parishes because it would require them to pay more money to the archdiocese and come up with a way to help the archdiocese pay the salary of their priests. So I think probably it works well as it can the way it is now. At some particular point, if it seems that it would be better for the parishes to offer more money to the archdiocese so that the priests can be paid full time, and we have priests that want to be paid full time. Some priests don't want to be paid full time by a priest. I had one priest who just retired. He was in the parish probably over 20, 25 years. He never took a dime from them, never took one dime from the parish. He asked them to put money away for his to give to the archdiocese for his retirement, but he took pleasure in giving himself to this ministry. And like I said before, we have to be flexible.
I think that if you were to change the system, you would weaken the natural bond that the um, Christian leader in the community, the presbyter, sent to the community, and the local community have to each other. Because this way, we see very concretely that we're responsible to and for each other, and that's a really important, I think, synergy. Um, I, Language is really important, and personally, I object to the idea of priests being employed at all. Because if they were employed, they would be um, working for money. And I contend that priests don't work for money. If you imagine a priest uh, is selling the sacraments, and that's his job to sell sacraments, that's simony and a very terrible sin. I can't sell something that is a gift from God for his people. If you say that the priest is paid to love you, well, that in our culture, our American culture, if you pay somebody for love, I mean, there are terrible names that we call people who sell love. You see? So we priests are not paid to love you or paid for sacraments. It is holy and right that the people that Christ sends through the church to your parish be supported by the parish so they can live among you full time and take care of your needs. So you take care of my needs the best that you can, and with what you can do to take care of my needs, I will be able to take care of you the best that I can. And that's how I understand uh, our relationship to be. With that said, I completely agree with Bishop Thomas, and
It,
uh,
it, it,
and see the system that we have as we have it to be uh, the best possible system.
it's important to me. It was important to me when I was a parish priest that I be able to go in and live as the average parishioner lived in my parish. You know, we have a clergy compensation package, and it's a good thing, but we have a priest that works with it, the Archdiocese, Father Paul Matar, and he works. The thing I like about Father Paul is he uses common sense, and it's important that we live as the average parishioner does. That we don't live a lot better, and we don't live a lot worse. There are parishes where the priest lives, he lives on public assistance, and yet there are parishioners there that live luxuriously, and there's opposite. That's true in some parishes. The parishioners are so loving and caring for their priest, they make sure that he lives better than they do, because they want him to know that they love them and he's their father. So, as I said before, it's important to me that we be able to live as the parishioners live, and not to do much better and not to do a lot worse.
No priest should need to decide whether or not he can visit somebody because he can or can't afford gasoline. That would not be beneficial to the parish. So we need to support our clergy so that they can support us. And we all have to be serious about taking responsibility for this gift that God has given us. He's given us the church. He's given us our health. He's given us our homes. He's given us our intelligence. He's given us and given us and given us. And we need to use those gifts to build up the kingdom of God. And we do that by taking care of our clergy and by having a church that is fitting to being a witness to the empty tomb of Jesus Christ.
Just got another, thank you, Sayed, for that. Another great question here. How can we best learn from this pandemic? What are the major lessons in your opinion?
Tonight I learned to be
Patience, patience, flexibility, humility that we can't control anything, kindness. That's how I would start the list. But everybody can go to the chat box and share something they've learned.
You know, the priest I visited with this weekend, we were having lunch this afternoon, and he told me, and this is one of the most patient men I know. I mean, he's got more patience in his pinky than I have in my whole body. And he said to me, he says, he says, I'm finding myself getting angry and jumping down on people, jumping at people that I never jumped at before. And tonight I did the same thing. We're getting angry, and I don't think that it makes God happy for us to react in this way. I think it delights the demons that he can use this situation to get us at each other. I keep thinking about the Spanish flu, and when people, died in the Spanish flu, they didn't have what we've got tonight. They couldn't go on Zoom and look at one another and talk at one another and communicate with one another. At least we have something. I mean, we have the prayers of the church. We have the sacraments when we're able to go to church. But when we don't have that, we have one another. If we can look at these boxes that we're looking at tonight and begin to see them as icons on the wall, then I think maybe we'll be doing a little bit better. But I know I have a long way to go. And I know that, as a matter of fact, we're going to be going a lot further into this pandemic. It's not going to be over next month or the month after. We're going to have to continue to pray for one another and be patient with one another. And as a bishop, be patient with the clergy, be patient with the laity, and especially the people that are trying to help us work through this. I don't like to be locked in. Uh, Everybody knows that I spend like 40 or 50 days a year in my house. I've been in my house this year longer than I've been in 5 years combined. And I was doing all right the first couple months, but I'm not doing very well right now. Okay, I don't like to be told that I have to be caged in, and but people are telling me that because they don't want me to get sick. And when we say this to one another, and we want to jump, we have to think about why are people telling us this. I mean, I was dealing with it with parishioners and priests before who were getting angry because we sent them directives about what they could do and what they couldn't do, and they were getting angry. We were sending them the directives because we didn't want them to get sick. And if I'm getting directives, I have to accept that because people love me and they don't want me to get sick. So I think we're going to have to continue to utilize this, and thank God we have it. I'm so grateful for the fact that we have Zoom. Before this pandemic, I thought Zoom was something that you drank after you ate husa, which is squash. Okay, I didn't know anything about Zoom, but thank God it's here.
Allison, you mentioned about the teens and their feelings, and I think it's helpful to acknowledge and validate those feelings.
What was that?
One of the priests from your diocese invited me to talk to a group of young adults uh, earlier in the pandemic, and what I said to them is anybody who's not feeling depressed is sick. And what I meant by that is we've lost our whole way of life. We've lost our routine. And it makes sense to be depressed, to have such change. And to imagine that you can change your whole routine and not feel anything. People who don't feel anything have big problems. And so let's just acknowledge that we're all going through this lousiness together and try to respond to each other with generosity and kindness, and that's what makes the most sense. But let's not tell people not to feel anxious or upset or angry. Let's tell them that their feelings are understandable, but God is with us, and we're the people of the empty tomb.
I feel better now. I feel better now because somebody invited me for Thanksgiving. I don't have to stay home by myself. I feel much better now.
So I'm sure you'll have many offers.
Well, I don't know about that, but this year I lost my father, and a couple years ago I lost my mother, and I've never spent a holiday, Thanksgiving or Christmas, without my parents. And on top of it, we have this wonderful pandemic, and I'm being sarcastic now. And I have to admit, that the demon's been able to use that and get at me a bit. But this has been very helpful this evening, listening to Bishop John and listening to how we deal with healing and listening to the feelings of other people. It's helped me an awful lot.
And we're grateful, Sayedna,
I
for your
just,
encouragement to make this happen.
I want to can I just say one thing in gratitude for our beautiful archdiocese? Our churches were never closed. There were some churches that were closed, and I have friends in other faiths that their doors were closed, and our doors were never closed. And I think that speaks volumes about our faith and our clergy and our hierarchs. And so I just feel grateful for that. And one of the things that I've been doing to try to stay sane as we go into winter is every day I just try to think of one thing that I'm grateful for. and that keeps me going. And uh the live streaming, I find that it to be, it's amazing, because I live an hour from my church anyway. So for me, it's a lot, it's bringing God right to my doorstep. And but I do miss being in the house of God, and I know I'm not alone, and there is no way my little 2-bedroom townhouse is a house of God. It's cramped and it's small, and the dogs are running around sometimes, and it gets crazy. But I think that for me, I know I'm not alone. I miss being in God's house. That's why we have God's house. So I do feel lucky that I'm able to go, but when I did go and I had to wear the mask for 2 hours, 3 hours, there is that fear. There is that element of fear. And I know I'm not alone in this, but I do worry as we go into winter, um, about this a lot. And I just hope the vaccine comes out soon.
It's going to be, it's a challenge. It's been a challenge to keep the churches open. We have to not only deal with local authorities. I mean, this week I even as of today, this week, I had 2 priests that contracted the virus. I got another priest that's being quarantined. Uh, I feel like I'm a manager of a baseball team trying to put in substitutes, okay? Moving people around so that I can keep the church open. That's when you saw me walk away from here a few minutes ago. I was on the phone trying to figure out how I'm going to keep 3 churches open next Sunday when I have 3 priests who are supposed to serve at altars that have to be quarantined because they either subjected to someone that has it, or they have the virus itself. So it's not been easy. And I wrote something a couple of weeks ago. Those of you that get emails from me, Thomas the Obsessive, you get emails from me. You read me. You heard me thank the bishops and the priests and the church leadership for their ability to be able to work through this and to keep our churches open under trying times. And I continue to thank God for people like Bishop John and all my other brother bishops and the clergy that have worked under some very challenging things. And it seems like every week there's a new situation that I didn't anticipate that crops up because of this virus. And you are quite right to be grateful to the Archdiocese for keeping the church open, most especially my brother hierarchs, because it has not been easy.
Well, one thought I had was, and please forgive me, Sayedna, if I don't mean anything by this, but it seems like this is such an unusual time. We haven't had this happen in 100 years. We do have the benefit of live streaming, and live streaming, whether you like it or not, whether you feel like it connects you or not, there are people that do feel closer to God. Like Bishop John said, you can hear the priest, you can hear the priest's prayers. And if you're following along with your book, it's beautiful. So maybe if we are in this second wave and it's going to be another 6 months, is there a way to give the priests a break through having different parishes do live stream and have people tune in to different parishes? Would that help? Because I know the priests are getting tired. You can see it as a layperson, and my heart goes out to them, because I just cannot imagine leading during a time like this.
I think the thing that they're getting tired of, the thing of getting tired of is that's wearing them down is the fear that they're not going to be able to serve at the altar. At least the ones that I talk to, they live to serve at the altar, and to tell them that they can't go to the altar really pulls them down. So, obviously we can do that. We're open to anything and everything. We've learned to do that. But as a matter of fact, I think our priests, the priests that I'm associated with, they feed with being able to serve at the altar. That's the number one nourishment they receive. So we're going to continue to do what we can do, and if we have to continue to sanctify the stream and the Zoom, we'll do that too. But we're not going to be closed-minded to anything. I don't want people to get too used to this, though. We got some people that have already told us that they like the streaming so much that they're going to continue even after, we're able to go back to church again. We don't want to get too used to this, okay? It's you can't take the body and blood of Christ through this box that I'm looking at right now, right? And that's the most important thing for us to do, is to be able to take the sacraments.
Some people seem to do live streaming differently. But by that, I mean, some folks have moved their television to their icon quarter. They light candles and incense. They stand during the services. They make prostrations and they pray. While others watch liturgy with coffee in their underwear. And so I think that perhaps we need to make a real effort and be deliberate.
Thank you, Bishop John. Bishop Thomas, we just passed 9:30. We have one unanswered question that I think is a short one, and then we can close in prayer. And it is this: it's a history question. Someone asked the question: approximately when did the Antiochian Church switch from Syriac over to Arabic?
I don't know the year, but I know that the Ottoman soldiers would cut the tongues out of people that they heard speaking Syriac. And the reason was the soldiers spoke Arabic. And so rather than the soldiers learning our language, we needed to learn their language. And that occupation was particularly harsh, not just in the Middle East, but in Serbia and Romania and Bulgaria and all of the places that were under Ottoman rule. But particularly in the Middle East, they took so much of the food from Syria that thousands of people starved to death. And they stole children from Orthodox countries and at the age of 3 and raised them in the army. That occupation was really, really awful.
Several individuals, thank you, Sayed, and several people have actually commented that they appreciated your history, and think we should do more on these matters, history, during some of these sessions in the future, and we'll take that certainly take that into consideration. And with that, it looks like we have, I think everybody has had their questions answered. And again, Bishop John, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this evening session. It's such a blessing to have you with us. And Bishop Thomas, I think you sell yourself a little short in the patience department. You've certainly been patient with me as I have.
Short.
Well, you've certainly been patient, and I appreciate all the reminders along the way so this could be a successful night. And Deacon David, your patience with me has been overwhelming as well. So I want to thank you both. And Bishop Thomas, I think the retreat has been a success, and God willing, for everyone here, our spring retreat will be virtual. The dates are likely to be changed. We will ask Bishop Thomas to please close us in prayer for this retreat and ask God's blessing upon our next.
I'm going to defer to Father Timothy Barkley. Can you hear me, Father Timothy?
Yes, I just unmuted Sienna.
Go
Thank
right
you.
ahead, Father Timothy, and end with prayer, please.
Yes, Sienna, with your blessing. Lord and lover of mankind, bless us as we go forth. Bless us as we serve our parishes and those to whom you've called us. We pray that you would continue to sustain our hierarchs and that you would extend your hand of mercy and blessing on those around us, that they might receive your grace from your holy church. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Sena is Palatinas.
Great press.